Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SQL Server Performance Monitoring and Tuning video brought to you by SQLworkshops.com. In this video, we will talk about SQLTest, Getting Started, Part 2. Let's look how to look for results first. Let's have a workload that is running for 10 seconds with number of threads 1 connecting to one instance, that is SQL 2014, and it's executing select at version. When you start the current workload, we talked about the difference between start all and start current in the previous video. In this case, we will use start current. When you start the current workload, there you see in the workload status how many iterations have completed and so on. And if you go to results, it shows you the results from executing the statement. So if you say start current again, you see it is refreshing the results, and the time what we see here is 530 or 634 microseconds. If you see, this is in milliseconds. In the last video we changed from average DB time in seconds to average DB time in milliseconds. So this is taking around 634 microseconds. This is because it is refreshing the results in the results tab. If you want to avoid the overhead of refreshing the results in the results tab, you can go to settings, workload settings, and you can uncheck this show results. The tool will still execute the reader and execute the read and fetch all the rows. It will just not display it, because displaying in a rich text box and keeping the cursor in the end and refreshing is quite expensive. So let's disable this show results, and then we will start the workload again. Now you see it is taking around 280 microseconds instead of 600 microseconds. So when you are doing some benchmark or some critical time test, there is a possibility you can disable show results, but you can still write it into a log file, because writing into a log file with a lot of memory in the computer is much faster. To write into a log file, you click here on the settings, general settings, and you choose what do you want to log, errors or messages or results. If you want to log results, you say here, and you give log file buffer size. If your buffer size is large, it will allocate more memory, but the writes will be faster and it won't disturb our test very much. And while you are logging, you have to give a file name. Let's say we want to write to a file. Of course, you choose a directory where you have permission to write, and then you can append date and time to the log file name. So there is a possibility to log the results or any of the tabs that is available in the main window: errors, messages, trace, or report. If you want to send the file by email, then you can give an email address here: SQLTest@outlook.com. So after the test is complete, if you choose this checkbox, email log file on workload completion, after the workload completion, it will send the log file. If you choose this box, it will send you the file only if there were errors. And one important thing, in case you choose an email address in the email too, so the file can be sent as an attachment, you have to do one more thing in addition. That is, you have to go to email settings and you have to configure your SMTP and email settings. One additional setting you have to do is you have to add the email address in the approved to addresses. If you give an email address in the general settings in the log email group box, that email address should be in this approved to email addresses. If not, the workload will fail. And this entire email settings is saved in the SQL test directory. And there are errors and messages tab. In the Messages tab, you will see after a workload is complete or while the workload is running, it will tell you the workload start time. If a workload was cancelled because the duration expired, it will give you these messages. And of course, all of these tabs, you can double click them and you can open in a pop-up window and you can change the font size. You can also right click and clear these tabs. If there are errors, it will be reported in the errors window. You can say, for example, select ATAT version 1, which is not there. So if you say start current, of course this workload will fail and you will see the error messages here. And there is also a trace window. If you want to have trace messages, you can click on Settings, General Settings, and set the trace level. Based on the level, you will have different set of messages. And after every test is complete, you will have a report. Let's go to the Report tab. There you will find the report. When you double click, you see the report and it shows the instance start time and the workload start time. It says 1 workload completed since we cleared this tab. Now we will start one more workload. Let's say we run this workload for 2 seconds, start current. After the workload complete, of course there will be 2 reports, one report from the previous execution and the other report from this execution. And in the reports you can select various level of details. You can go to Settings, General Settings, and here you can choose in the report, should it contain only workload level statistics or connection level statistics, or it should also include thread level statistics. There's one additional thing called detailed statistics. It shows you further information. Then there is this provider statistics. There is a tab called provider statistics and it shows you the provider statistics. What is provider statistics? You can click on this question mark and you can click on online help. Sometimes it is difficult to get this online help. Let's try one more time. I click here. Yes, this is the provider statistics. Provider statistics is the same as the client statistics that you get in the Management Studio. And if you want to know more about it, you can use this link in the MSDN. There you see what the various columns in the provider statistics mean. Of course, part of running the test, the tool collects the provider statistics and it has some overhead. If you want to disable this provider statistics, you can click on Settings, Workload Settings, and disable provider statistics. You can uncheck this enable provider statistics. And next time when you run this test, the provider statistics will not be collected. Maybe this is useful when you are doing a benchmark or when you are making critical measurements. And there is execution statistics. These are the 3 tabs related to the execution statistics. Executions completed, execution time, average time. It shows how many iterations completed and how many connections completed, how many execute reader completed, how many read completed, next results, detailed statistics. This is the execution count. And here you see the execution time and here you see the average time. This is all in milliseconds. And you also have a tab for tips, tricks, and updates. So you can go to this tab and check it out. We have some tips and recommendations. So we already talked about changing the average DB time in milliseconds. You can go here, click on the tools, and you can change from average DB times in seconds to milliseconds. If you want in milliseconds, then you leave it. If not, you click on average DB time in seconds, then you get it in seconds. Thanks for watching. Bye.